Yeah, you can go.
Thank you very much for coming today. We're going to bring this meeting of June, what is it today, 4th?
What did I do?
June 4th, planning board meeting together. If you would please stand. We will have the invocation. No? Okay. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Burnett.
Please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I will do the invocation. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the weather that you've given us, Lord God, and for the people that are gathered here to talk about things that need to be done, Lord God. We just ask that you guide us and move us through this meeting. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. You have a seat.
I can call the roll, but I can tell you won't have quorum. So do you want to just announce that we're waiting on quorum?
Yeah, we got another member coming. I didn't realize that before we started. I mean, I knew he was coming, but I just didn't think about it to the right. Sorry, I sound so scatterbrained today. I've just got a lot of things going on. Just one. Mr. Barnes is on his way, according to everybody. So if y'all would just hang with us for just a few minutes.
Noted for the record that Caitlin Owens, Edie Wilson, and George Deloach are excused for the record. right.
All right, we will reconvene this meeting now that Mr. Barnes has showed up.
Okay. To do the roll call of the members that are present, Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Burnett,
Here.
Mr. Barnes,
Here.
and Chair Killebrew.
Here.
We have a quorum now, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay. Reading of the appeals and procedures. Any person wishing to appeal any decision made by the planning board with respect to any matter considered at such meeting will need a record of the proceedings, and for such purpose may need to ensure that verbatim record of the proceedings is made which record includes testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is based on Florida Statute 286.0105. Okay, now we need of approval of meeting minutes for May 7th, for the May 7th meeting.
Make a motion to approve the May 7th, 2024.
I have a
minutes.
motion. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, hearing none, passes unanimously. Okay, I'm going to open the meeting up to public comments. This is not necessarily for, if you just got a comment to give to the board or whatever, you can speak if you're here to speak again, towards or against anything that's on the agenda. You can speak at that time. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on into regular business. Who's going to present PB 24-09? Oh, that's the one we're doing. Is that you? Okay.
All righty. Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Casey Cheap, again, urban planner here with the city of Palatka. This is case PB 2409. This is a simple rezoning application. I do want to point out that under general, it does say flu amendment, but we're not going for a future land use amendment here. It's a rezoning. The address is 2418 Krill Avenue. Parcel ID is there. Applicant is Mr. Schertag, George Schertag, I believe. It's here. The official ownership, I guess, of the property is 2418 Krill LLC. I'm going to try my best not to read word for word because I don't want to be too boring, but there's a lot of information here. So I'll try to pack this up nicely as I can. So the site is a third of an acre, a 0.33 acre parcel at 2418 Krill Avenue in the Palatka city limits. The future land use designation is currently that of residential low, and it has a residential single family R1A zoning classification. Site is surrounded by, and you'll see on a map in a bit, the site is surrounded by several other R1A properties to the north and east, as well as intensive commercial zoning to the south and west. The reason this property is coming before you today is because it exceeds the allowed maximum density in the R1A zoning. So I should clarify here too that there are 3 units that we're aware of on that parcel. So at the suggestion of city staff, there's been a little bit of history here. The applicant agreed to rezone from City of Palatka residential single family R1A to City of Palatka multifamily residential R3. We advertised R3, just want to clarify, we advertised R3, but we are going for R2 today. That'll be clear in a minute. So just quickly, built in 1948, the original house on this lot was a single family home and surrounded by a mix of single family homes and some commercial properties along Krill Avenue. The former garage structure behind the house facing Fern Street, the Fern Street side of the property was subsequently converted into 2 dwelling units since the construction of that home. But we don't know exactly at what point. According to the Putnam County 911, the former garage that is now 2 dwelling units in that structure was assigned an address on January 20th, 2022. According to the warranty deed, the owner has been in possession of the property post that time. That's May 24th, 2022. The zoning non-compliance of this property was brought to the attention of city staff when the applicant applied for multiple water meters on this single family parcel in around October of 2023. You do have a letter here, by the way, that I'd like to point out. Didn't make it into the agenda, but I had passed it around to you. And if you don't have a copy, I've got one extra here just from the city attorney to the to the applicant here about some of the options to kind of bring this parcel into compliance. So those options are listed there. You see the 1, 2, 3, eliminate one dwelling unit, seek a variance, or seek a rezoning. We're of course seeking rezoning. Based upon the options suggested in the letter, the applicant filed for a variance. However, after the review of the variance application, it was determined that density limitations established in the comprehensive plan are not eligible for variances. At that point, the city staff contacted the applicant, informing him that and I'm crossed out future land use amendment because we're not doing that, but a zoning change is needed to retain the 3 dwelling units on the parcel. I'll take a quick break. I know Ms. Krantz has already put the map up there. So just figure 1 kind of shows the subject area of the property. I think we've all driven past it quite many times out that way on Krill Avenue. It's kind of across the street from that island. And then figure 2 on the same page just shows some of the surrounding zoning. It's pretty solidly R1A on one side and C2 on the other side. The next page shows figure 3 shows a satellite view of the property. The site in question where the dwelling units were added is in that red box. That's currently 711 Fern Street. And you can see the table there to show some of the surrounding uses, table 1 at the bottom of the page. Just really quickly, based upon the file of the case, staff initially believed that the R3 zoning district, which allows up to 18 dwelling units per acre, was the adequate district. However, after further review, it was concluded that the introduction of a high density designation would be detrimental to the established single family subdivision. Staff then considered that a more suitable designation would be the R2 district, given that it yields a total of 2.64 dwelling units per acre. That's 2.64 based on the 1/3 of an acre for this particular parcel. So rounding it to the highest number would allow the 3 dwelling units maximum for this parcel. If you guys go ahead and approve the potential change from R1A to R2, it'll bring the property into density compliance per the Palatka Municipal Code, section 94-144 F2A. So just really quickly, in addition, the rezoning to R2 does not trigger an amendment to the future land use map since the existing R1A and R2 zones are consistent with low density residential land use designation. And finally, to the recommendation, staff recommends approval of the rezoning of this property from City of Palatka residential, single family R1A to City of Palatka residential, 2-family residential. I'm sorry, 2-family residential R2. And I can stand for questions. I know that was a lot. And of course, the applicant is here as well to answer your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Real quick, staff, so there's no other R2 anywhere in the immediate vicinity, correct?
R2, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. Not terribly close.
That is correct, Mr. Barnes. Most of it is a subdivision, the long established subdivision.
Yes, sir.
With single family homes, all of them are R1. The only thing that you have is along Krill, a little bit of commercial.
Commercial, yes, sir.
But all the subdivision behind it is all single family.
In y'all's experience as staff, how common is it to have spot zoning like this? I know it's not a big difference between R1 and R2, but
It's not a proper spot zoning. It doesn't qualify as a spot zoning.
right, not
It's-
proper, but it's
right.
still less than ideal, I guess is the best word. Is
Right.
that kind of not incredibly uncommon in your experience? or-
It's not uncommon. And like Casey pointed out, first we thought that we needed a 3 and residential 3, but we consider that to be just too much of
A
a
bit much.
density, and we were concerned about the effect that could have in the neighborhood, creating a precedent, that other property owners could seek the same high density, and that would destroy the character of the community, of the residential community. So R2 is a more proper, it's not too out of consistency with the single family homes that surrounds the property. So that's the reason that we recommend to you that you approve the R2 zoning, and that will bring the property into compliance.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Would the applicant like to speak to the board? Well, I guess it's be a little hard for you, but
Would you like the handheld mic?
yeah,
That's what I
if you don't mind, we'll get your handheld mic. You got it now? Okay,
Infection after the surgery.
sorry.
Yeah, I don't know where to start, but I bought this
Name?
property. My name is George Shkurtaj. That's HKURTAJ. I purchased this property. You can see I have pictures in there. The way it is was almost finished completely, except we had to do the electric, connect it, and that was done. So we passed the inspection, I rent it out, and I find out that there's not in compliance
Mhm.
from Elko, whatever their name is, a wholesaler that time, and they're out of business. So now I'm the one who's in trouble.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to do my best. They're all the units, you know what I mean? They're, occupied, the rental, they're good people. And I have a lot right next to it, it's 75 by 75. It's completely vacant. There's nothing doing any purpose at all. So I'm not sure why it's so density, what the gentleman said there, on that neighborhood there. I don't know what, but I like to keep them all three because this house is separate and it has two units, one above the other. I don't know what the purpose was before, but I like to keep it like that, you know what I mean?
I'm very familiar with that property. When I was a young man, it was Mr. Bowen, I think was his name. He had a VW repair shop there in that garage.
Hmm.
So,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish.
does anybody on the board have any questions?
But I've been here a few times. I talked to, Miss West and the prior who was, what was her name? I forgot. Yeah, Miss Walsh also as well. So went through this, a few times and they advised me to do the variance. I did. I'm complying with anything that you guys have or might need to, but if I did know what the heck is going on, excuse my language, I was not gonna buy it. I drove all the way from Jacksonville to come and look at it. And here we are now. So I need your help, and if it's to keep it, I'll appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Again, does anybody from the board have any questions of that? Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, if you want to step to the podium, give me your name and address.
Okay. My name is Mary Shackelford, and I live at 2417 Alice Street, and I live right behind this property. And like he said, there's 3 tenants. They're all really nice, they're quiet, and there is a lot between my back fence and where the structure is. So as long as we keep that vacant, everything will be fine for our neighborhood. Everything in that area is one-family homes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Has she filled out Yellow Spears card?
No, I don't think so. Ms. Shackford, if I could get one of those orange cards back there and fill it out and turn it, it's on the wall. And turn it in, please. Anybody else want to speak on the record? Yes, ma'am, if you would get one of those cards also. But come on up here.
Come on up and speak. You can
Yeah.
fill that out afterwards.
I didn't hear my
I
hearing
need
aids.
your name and
Oh,
address.
June Landry, 517 South 17th Street.
Good.
I'm just wondering, I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but I live further down on Creel. And I'm just wondering, it's mostly one single family dwellings. And how is the putting in multiple family dwellings or allowing it gonna affect the already increasing traffic in the area?
Would you like to address that, Mr.?
Yeah, but in this case, the units are already there, it's already in existence, so the impact already happened. Usually a single family home will create about 10 trips per day.
Well, from what I understand is once you allow one, it's easy for some more to come in.
Well, you set up a precedent, and that's the reason we are not recommending to go to the higher density, to the R3. That's what we're recommending to go to the R2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Mrs. Kitchens.
You already have a card on me, but I'd like to make a comment. Legal Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. I'm neither for nor against this. If the neighbors are for it, and it sounds like it's a good idea. But my comment is this: perhaps the planning board or the planning director, or maybe the city attorney, I would like to find out, or would like for the city to find out, why when this gentleman was issued the permit, he was not told what he could and couldn't do. Now, I know the county issues the permits now. So maybe that's something that either the planning board needs to give the directive, or the city attorney or the city manager or somebody, to make sure that when the county issues the city permits, that the person that gets the permit is told what the zoning will and will not allow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kitchens. Any other comments, questions? Okay, I'll close the public speaking part of that and bring it back to the board. Do I hear a motion or?
I have a question for our illustrious attorney, if she doesn't mind. Since we are kind of setting the precedents, what kind of ramifications do we have if we get a bunch of applicants trying to increase their zoning? And at some point, we have to draw the line.
Sure.
And onesie twosies is very reasonable.
Right.
But is this opening ourselves up to repercussions?
There is no doubt that there is a precedent setting effect, especially for the immediately adjacent properties surrounding this particular parcel. If they wanted to upzone to R2, there really would not be a basis for this planning board to make a recommendation of denial for a request like that based upon the precedent that you'll be setting today. We are in the unfortunate situation, and this does happen sometimes, where you're stuck in a position of putting a square peg into a round hole. And basically that is the situation that we have with a purchaser of a piece of property that stated he had 3 units on it when he purchased it. If the city is put in a position now of essentially depriving him of his private property rights, having all 3 of those units, that also sets the city up for a predicament, shall we say. So you are in a difficult position between weighing the precedential value of upzoning to R2 versus the potential legal ramifications of denying the full and best benefit of his property rights.
And I would like to add, if I can, although you said the precedent, each case is reviewed on its own merits. Although you do set the precedent, but each case has to be reviewed based on the case that is being brought to you.
Yes, sir.
If I understand right, the gentleman, I was his name already, George, but did he cause the problem? You got the property after everything was started there.
It was done, not started.
The way that I understand everything here, I mean, if I'm reading, I read something somewhere that said that basically the only reason you were doing this was to put in 3 water meters.
No, sir.
No, I didn't read that somewhere. Okay.
So the trigger was, there is one utility service for this parcel.
That's what I thought. Okay.
This situation came to the city's awareness when a call was made to put in 3 meters. So it reflected all of the units that triggered our utility billing. Well, that's how we discovered the issue.
Nobody told me that. I didn't involve it. We got 2 meters for water and 2 meters for electric.
Yes, sir. I understand.
That's how it came on the.
That's
city
what I
paper.
thought. I read that somewhere. Okay.
How
Yes,
long
sir.
has that non-compliant building been there?
Since I was a little boy. 63 years ago.
Well, it wasn't residential units then. It was just a garage, right?
I'm not sure there wasn't an apartment upstairs.
There is a apartment upstairs.
No, I'm saying before you came, if I remember correct, it's right there across the street from Rips 1 Hour.
Well, given the fact that it's right on the highway, and the immediate neighbor seems to be in favor of it. I've got no problem with it, assuming if we get a crazy wave, we can sit down as a board and draw a line somewhere. And it's my understanding that we can do that to protect the integrity of the neighborhood,
Yeah.
if that were to come.
Those are unique factual circumstances, Mr. Barnes, and I would work that into your motion so it can distinguish from future applications that might be seeking the same upzoning.
Fair and reasonable. I'll make a motion if you're okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
I move that this board recommend, since the property is adjacent to commercial property and along the major highway, that the board approve the rezoning of the property from the City of Plaquemine Residential Single Family R1A to City of Plaquemine Residential 2-Family Residential R2.
I hear a motion. Do I get a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor? Is there any discussion before I go any further with that? Okay. Do I hear a motion, or we got a motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck. Now we move on along to case PB 24-10, request to annex, that you said that was going to be continued?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance to the July meeting because they have acquired additional property to the project, so they're gonna have to amend the application.
The additional properties to the north of the property. that we're
Yeah, they
looking
will
at
have
here.
access to
Yes, sir.
towards St. John's Avenue.
It adjoins and is to the north.
Yeah, so I will ask a motion, to grant the continuance to the July meeting.
Okay, do we have a motion to grant this continuance?
Mr. Chair, I move that we table project PB 24-10 to our next date of communication.
Motion and a second. Mr. Wallace, the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. And now we're moving on along to PB 24-13, establish conditional use for a club, lodge, or family organization. Oh, she's up there.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd just like to introduce Sherry Farmer, to the board.
Thank you.
This is her first presentation, being the project manager for this application that you have in front of you.
Well, you know how tough we are, Ms. Farmer, so.
Just for the record, Mr. Chair, the date of the next meeting is July 2nd at 4.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I am presenting case 2413 for conditional use. You may know it as the former Lions Club at 318 Osceola Street. Currently, the building is a non-conforming vacant structure owned by Beck Sloan Properties. And the agent is Mr. Jim Troiano, and he is in chambers today to represent the owner. The site is zoned R3 residential multifamily, and as such, it does allow as a conditional use clubs, lodges, and familial organizations. The owner of the property has received a request from the Bert Hodge American Legion Post number 45, located next door to the property, as you can see on figure 2. They want to occupy this space and allow their women's auxiliary to use it as a meeting space. Section 94-115 of the municipal code allows the reestablishment of a non-conforming use within a 36-month period. However, this structure has been vacant longer than the allowable time, and so the owner therefore seeks to reestablish use through this application. The table immediately following figure 2 lists all the adjoining properties, their current use, their flume and zoning, and you will see that they are mainly all R3, except for the mill property to the south, which is a PUD. As we move on, the property owners are compliant with most of the requirements for conditional use. I will just draw your attention to a few of them. Section 94-115 R3 multifamily residential district lists clubs, lodges, and familial organizations as a conditional use. And when analyzing, 11 requirements must be met per section 94-3-4. Criteria and responses as follows. Like I said, I'm just going to focus on a couple of them. Off-street parking and loading areas where required. If you want to just take a look at figure 2 while I describe it. The existing structure has a lawn area that was previously used for parking, but it has not been updated to conform to current code nor ADA standards, Americans with Disabilities Act. Off-street parking and loading, sorry, the code does state for off-street parking and loading that all parking and loading areas shall be surfaced with asphalt, concrete, brick, or other similar material. However, upon request by the property owner for which the paving is required, an exception to the paving requirement may be granted by the building official on a case-by-case basis for a proposed use that occurs on a developed non-residential site that does not require new construction, etc. The code also calls for 1 parking space for every 5 members of the club, and the applicant has stated that there are 30 members, so 6 spaces are required. Additionally, the ADA compliance designates an accessible space be designed and marked for the exclusive use of individuals who have a severe physical disability, minimum of 1. And the report goes on to explain those particular requirements. The applicant has agreed to the conditions for the ADA compliant parking, and the planning director has granted approval for a pervious rock surface for the 6 necessary parking spaces. So then we look at refuse and service areas. The building is currently utilizing city residential curbside pickup, and the only issue would be that trash areas and storage areas visible from any public street shall be planted or screened, and this must be installed prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. Signs would need to meet the requirements of section 62, and then the special requirements at letter J outlines the general landscape requirements. Change of use requires landscaping in accordance with this section, and the report goes on to explain that. Off-street parking areas containing 5 parking spaces shall contain at least 10 square feet of interior landscaping for each parking space. And so every other element and requirement for conditional use is met by the applicant. They are in compliance. And so staff recommends that conditional use be granted with those following conditions. The parking shall be updated to conform to current code and ADA standards. Screening shall be placed around the trash pickup locations, and they landscape the parking lot to code minimums. We believe that we've presented the necessary material to demonstrate that conditional use will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter and would not be injurious to the neighborhood, but would actually allow a previously vacant building to host a new civic organization that would provide a service to our community. We've spoken with the applicant and they've agreed to the conditions. I'll invite Mr. Troiano to the podium to answer any questions, or if you have any for me.
Does anybody on the board have any questions for Ms. Farmer? Thank you.
Thank you.
You did good for your first shot.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I've left a couple of these here for you.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I am Jim Troiano. My address is 2000 Reed Street, Palatka, Florida. I do represent Beck Sloan Properties. We've had the great opportunity of working with the American Legion Post, the auxiliary. We found that they had a need. They do great work for this community. We've had a building that sits next door. It's vacant. and they have a need. And so we've looked at that. We've stepped up and we're going to allow them to have access to that building. They occupy a very small area of the current post building, and having a larger footprint for them to be able to do their work is something that we believe is very important. And it's an opportunity for us to give back to the community. Today, there are several members of the post here. I think some are going to get up and speak in regards to this item. But our cooperation has been moving forward. We have plans in place. Hopefully, if this is passed by you all today, we'll begin working on the items that Ms. Farmer identified, as well as other things, so we can expedite the process and get the post auxiliary into this building. So we appreciate the opportunity. I certainly appreciate city staff, very helpful for us through this process. And I just want to have that on the record. And if there's any questions that I may ask or answer of you, I'm here to do so.
Does anybody in the board have any questions, Mr. Troiano? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We have a couple of speakers cards for this. League Kitchens.
Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. I fully support the Bert Hodge Post 45 and anything related to veterans. I think that using this for the Legion Ladies Meeting Place is a wonderful idea. However, I would like to make a comment, as Paul Harvey says the rest of the story. I talked to Lester Shepard last night, a member of the VFW, and he told me,
American Legion.
American Legion. Lester told me that they did not go to Mr. Beck Sloan Properties. Beck Sloan Properties came to them with the request. Now, once Beck Sloan gave them the opportunity, then they did make the request. But I just want to specify that Bert Hodge did not go to Beck Sloan. Beck Sloan went to Bert Hodge first. So I want to clarify that in the comment. And the other thing is, I do have a question about, I have no problem with the conditional use being granted for section paragraph 6, which is clubs, lodges, and fraternal organizations. I do have a question for the city attorney. Under the conditional use, which is E under that section, there are 8 conditional uses, including retail sale of groceries, food service, medical, dental office, public offices, etc. And what I would like to know from the city attorney with a legal opinion, if you all grant this conditional use, which I think you should for the lodges and the clubs, if you grant it for this section C, 6, does that only apply to that? And if when they decide to come back and use this for their real estate sales office for their pending development, will they have to come back, get another conditional use? Or if they want to use it for any other use other than the VFW Ladies Meeting Place, would they have to come back and get another conditional use for one of the other 7 uses? Or once they apply for this, is it this and they have to come back? Or does this give them opportunity to use all 8 conditional uses?
Ms. West?
I think I understand the gist of what she is saying, but in order to provide a clear legal opinion, I would like the opportunity to review the code and get back to her on that.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Just want to make sure that.
Can we touch base, because that was the question presented was quite lengthy.
Well, I didn't think about it being a legal question. I was going to just ask the planning director, and then it occurred to me that it's actually a legal question.
Let's touch
And that
base
didn't occur to me
afterwards.
till, but I do think we need to, you all need to know what you're passing, in other words. If you're passing it for the VFW, for the American Legion, go for it, it's great. But if it's some other thing that's going to happen, then you need to think about it. Thank you.
So, and maybe Mr. Agamo can weigh in on this, but typically it will travel with the applicant. But I would like to be able to research that before I respond.
Okay.
Mr. Agano?
Yeah, the conditional use will run with the land. If some other use come in the future, we'll have to review that use against the code, what is permitted or not. In theory, I don't know what the use could be.
Well, there's 8 uses here under conditional use, and I want to know if they're applying, they're saying they only want number 6. And there's 7 other uses, and I want to know if the board grants the conditional use, does it limit it to number 6, or does it include all 8 of them? And that's what Ms. West has to research.
It would limit to all the conditional uses that are permitted.
It would be for all of them?
For sure.
I appreciate that. I still would like to hear Ms. West's legal opinion, but I appreciate you saying that, because that's what I needed clarification on. I mean, if the ladies are gonna be able to use it, that's great, but if they're going to use it for a year or two and then be kicked out, then I have a problem. May I sit down now or does any more? Thank you.
Yeah, you can sit down now, Mrs. Kitchens. Thank you.
So, again, this really always comes down to how the motion is crafted by the members of the board.
Right.
If you want to provide conditions for the sake of clarification moving forward, that is something that is within the discretion of the board.
Yes, sir, Mr. Wallace. Is your microphone on?
We've granted a lot of conditional uses, but they've always been for that specific purpose only.
Mm-hmm.
And once it was no longer, and I'm not saying this is the way it is, that's for y'all. But once that use was no longer needed, it went away and they had to come to us for another one if they wanted something else that was allowed under a conditional use. Did I make that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Clear as mud.
Do you understand?
Yes, sir, I did. I'm just picking it.
So you say that it's for all of them. You sure?
The ones that are permitted in that district,
Say again?
for the ones that are permitted in the district, in the zoning district. The
So,
conditional uses that are allowed, they will permit it. That's exactly what happened with this particular property. It used to be a Lions Club, so they had the conditional use in existence. Then it was vacant for more than 6 months, and then they have to reestablish the conditional use. That's what they're doing today. They're reestablishing the land use as a conditional use in that district.
but, so maybe I'm not, my hearing aids aren't working like the lady, that lady right there. Mine don't ever work. So if we grant a conditional use for the lodge, anything that's in that, we're
Except,
granting a conditional use for that purpose also?
yeah, I think it's up to the board. If you want to say that this is only approved for this particular use, the conditional use is limited to the civic type of use, then you can do that. And then it will only be limited to that use.
And we are allowed to do that?
This is a conditional use, yes.
I didn't think so.
You
Okay.
can put as a condition.
Man,
Yes, sir. Hang on just a minute, Mr. Troy. What are the uses again in that particular? Because it's not in our packet. But me personally, I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, it was built as a Lions Club. That's what it was built for, to be what they're asking to use it as. Thank you. Okay, so it says professional business offices, public offices, medical and dental clinics, hospital, nursing and convalescent homes, clubs, lodges and fraternal organizations, cemeteries, retail sale of groceries, but no food service and no motor fuel or special fuels, and no alcoholic beverages. So, Mr. Troy.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just to stipulate, our intent was for section 6 only. We have no other intentions for that property other than to work with the auxiliary and allow them to have that opportunity there. Our entire intent was number 6,
Yes, sir.
and that's what we'd like to ask for.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you, Mr. Troy.
So there would be no problem with us putting limits on it as for that.
I would
use
think
only.
not.
This is for additional use.
Mr. Chair, can Ms. Farmer please be microphoned?
I'm sorry?
Can Ms. Farmer please speak in the mic?
Okay. She just,
I was bringing section.
Please stand at a microphone.
I brought up section 94.3 for conditional uses. And it says all petitions for conditional use shall be considered first by the planning board. And a written petition shall be submitted indicating the provision under which it is sought and stating the grounds on which it is requested. Did state that we are seeking fraternal organizations.
I understood that, but it was just hard for my little brain to go back and see all that, so.
So I think based on what she read, I'm hearing half of everything and don't understand the other half. But based on what she just read, a conditional use is for one purpose only that you
Well,
seek it for.
We can make it that way, Mr. Wallace. Just what Ms. West said a while ago. The definition is of office professional, that's professional business uses. A public office, it's conditional use. Uses are permissible if after public notice and hearing and subject provisions, conditional use and structures in the R3 district are the same as the R2 district. So, I mean, I'm thinking we can do, and I don't think Mr. Troiano has any problem with what we're talking about doing, going to just, if we made the motion to just limit it to number 6, clubs, lodges, and fraternal organizations.
Mr. Chair, that's exactly what I just mentioned.
Yes, sir.
When I stood back up. for
I
you.
just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we were in the middle of public comment when all that came up. So, Ms. Coward.
I'm Esme Coward, and I'm get address, PO Box 595, Crescent City, Florida, 32112. I'm the president of our local American Legion Auxiliary. We're a service and leadership organization. And just one correction, we're no longer called the Women's Auxiliary. I believe we're the first auxiliary in the state to accept a male auxiliary member. His wife is an Air Force veteran in the post. This year's Florida's auxiliary is ranked #1 in the nation in membership growth. Our unit is ranked 2nd in the district. And in the last 2 years, our active membership has doubled. We are fast outgrowing our small meeting space. Our mission is to support the aims of the American Legion, and beyond that, we serve our local veterans, their families, and our children and youth. Some of the things that our membership does include serving free coffee and snacks at the local VA clinic. We adopt low-income veterans in Palatka, and we provide extras for them all year long. We send local girls to Girl State. We award scholarships to Putnam graduates. We provide project funding for classroom teachers. We support the Gary Sinise Foundation Gold Star Families Program. We collect aluminum tabs for Ronald McDonald House. We collect donations for Toys for Tots. And last year, we served 2,225 children in Putnam County. We lay flags on veterans' graves. We make gifts for Camp Boggy Creek for handicapped children. We sponsor veterans for honor flights to Washington, D.C. We support the Volunteers for Veterans who build ramps for those who are in need. We donate to Florida's auxiliary programs. We are digitizing the more than 100 years of artifacts for our post and our unit. As a centennial post, there is a rich local history that spans nationwide. And year-round, we bake and cook and bake and cook for our local veterans and our Legion. We are a separate financial entity from the Legion, and we do all of these things through bake sales, drawings, and mostly out of our own pockets. This expansion would help us tremendously and thereby help this community that we love and serve. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak to this? Seeing none, we're going to close public speaking. Bring it back to the board. Is there any discussion? I would just like to personally say that the building in question, I think, is perfect for what y'all want to do with it. That's just my opinion. It's just, I mean, it's sat there empty for a number of years now. If this, the Rexland Properties, if they're willing to do that for you, I think that's just an awesome thing, and so, I mean, that's just my opinion. Is anybody? Okay, seeing none, I'd call for a motion.
Before you make the
Oh, yes,
motion, your motion needs to include that the board has found that there's not going to be any adverse impact to the public interest. So if you could just work that into your motion.
Thanks a lot.
As he turned to me.
Mr. Barnes, I'm gonna let you use your skilled tongue and tie that all together.
Mr. Chair, seeing that the board has found no adverse action to the public, I would like to move that this board recommend that the conditional use be granted for the explicit use of a club, lodge, or fraternal organization and subject to the 3 conditions outlined in the staff report pertaining to parking, screening, and landscape.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion amongst the board on the motion? Seeing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Good luck, ladies. We appreciate you very much. Okay. Now we'll move along to case PB 23-27. Is that one going to be continued too?
Well, I'm just going to tee this up. I don't have a presentation,
Okay.
but I do see on the Zoom, or I saw on the Zoom, we do have a couple of members from Matthews. I think Autumn and Christina Evans are on there, as well as somebody named Surveyor. I'm not sure who, but I think they can speak. I'm gonna let them do the presentation on that just really quickly. This is PB 2327, the Palatka Mall final plat. I guess I'll let Autumn take it away.
Before
Good
we do
afternoon.
that,
Can you
Mr.
guys hear
Chair-
me?
Oh, hang on just a minute. Yes, sir.
Yeah, before we do that, I was gonna ask for a continuance on this item, since we haven't got the report from the third-party surveyor that is doing the review of the final plat.
Okay.
However, since we have the applicants and agents and the surveyor from the applicant, they might want to address some of the issues that were brought up at the last meeting when it was continued. But I was going to ask just for a continuance of the item. But if you want to hear from the applicant, I think it's a good opportunity to answer some of the questions that we had.
Okay, well, if we don't have everything there, I mean,
Yeah, I'm not ready to recommend at this point until I see the report from the surveyor that is reviewing for the city of the plat.
so is there any use in us going through the? Yes?
I guess.
I would say yes, Chair, only because the applicant's agent has been working to address many of the concerns that were raised by Mr. Wallace at the last meeting. We did have a very long, in-depth meeting with Mr. Wallace and staff. It was delightful.
I
I'm
thought
so-
so.
I'm sorry, Ms. West.
And we tried to address a lot of the concerns that he raised during the meeting, and we communicated those concerns back to the applicant's agent.
Right.
And so to the extent that they can brief and perhaps address any of those concerns now before heading into the July meeting to tease out if there might be any other loose ends that can be
Okay, I'm
addressed.
with you.
it
I
might
understand what you're saying.
make
Yeah.
sense.
Thank you.
And they're moving forward. They
Yeah.
have submitted already some of the things that we asked.
Yes, sir.
So
Okay, well, go ahead, take it away, Miss whoever I'm talking to.
So, Autumn Martinage, Matthews Design Group, 7 Waldo Street, St. Augustine. Really don't have a formal presentation prepared because as Lorenzo previously stated, we are expecting this to be tabled until the July meeting. But we are here for questions and hope to clarify some of the concerns that were had. Paul Morris is currently reviewing the updated plat based on our conversations with city staff. So, hopefully we'll have that report in the next couple of weeks so that staff can review and it'll be all ready and neatly packaged for the July meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we don't really, I mean, unless you, Mr. Wallace, unless you have questions in your mind right now, I mean, we don't really have anything to do.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay, all right.
then I will ask
No
for a
questions.
motion to continue this item to the July meeting.
Okay. All right, Mr. Barnes.
I just got a question for staff, given that we might be a couple weeks away from the report and this is pretty detailed. Is that going to give staff enough time to work back and forth for the July meeting, or do we need to go ahead and tee this up for August if the applicant is okay with that?
No, I believe that it will be resolved by the July meeting.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
we have enough time.
All right, do I have a motion to table this?
Mr. Chair, I move that we table case PB 23-27 to our next stated communication in July.
July 2nd.
What'd you say?
I was prepared that time, so I already looked it up. It's July 2nd.
July 2nd.
I thought you said I second.
Uh,
I thought you were seconding the motion. All right.
Sorry, my southern
Me
twang
too.
broke
That's the
out.
reason I looked at her and said, what in the world? Do we have a second? Thank you, Mr. Burnett. We have a motion and a second. All those, is there any discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes.
No, I was voting.
Y'all are way, I mean, we're getting there, guys, and we're gonna get there before 5 o'clock. Okay, so just stay with me. Any discussion? No? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, seeing none, motion passes unanimously to table this to our July meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, I believe that's it, right? Okay, seeing nothing else on the agenda, I have a motion to, oh, wait a minute, staff comments, excuse me. One of y'all go.
I don't have any comments, Mr. Chair.
Apparently I do.
Ms. West.
I would just like to take a moment to thank Casey Cheap for his
Oh.
work. I was making this.
I'm so sorry.
This is going to be Casey's last meeting with
understood
the
that.
city. And so he's done a great job, picking up the reins from that very difficult transition with Miss Walsh leaving. And it's been a pleasure working with him, but he's pursuing his master's in planning and hopefully we'll get to see him again soon.
Casey, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure working with you. You came prepared. You always answered our questions, and all that. And I just want to wish you luck in chasing after your dream and getting a master's degree. I mean, that's very admirable on your part. And we appreciate you as the city of Palatka, okay? Anybody else on the board got anything to say?
One comment, just to piggyback on that, I want to take the opportunity again to thank Mr. Wallace for his time and expertise in helping with these plats. And this is some pretty detailed stuff, and he's got a lot of experience and education in it. And I really appreciate your efforts in helping us stay in line.
And I'd like to echo that. Or-
Nothing I can give you though.
Okay. All right. Anybody else got anything else to say or add to, or City Manager Bell, would you like to address the board in any way? You sure?
I know better than to stand between people on an adjournment.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, all right. We stand adjourned.